Okay, dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Beginner's Guide series. Before we learn how to build a hero, we need to understand some of the fundamental mechanics in the game and skill effects first, so that we can equip our heroes wisely. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when a new guide is uploaded. We will start off with the 8 very basic stats which you can see from your hero screen. 4 of these are flat stats, namely attack, defense, HP and speed, while the other 4 crit rate, lethal rate, counter rate and block rate are in terms of percentage, with 100% as the maximum. Every hero has a basic set of stats and these are influenced by their awakened tier. There are several ways to increase these stats. First would be to level up, power up, rank up, awaken and transcend your hero. Basically all the standard hero building steps which we will go through in detail in volume 5. The highest possible base for a hero is when a hero has reached his or her maximum awakening along with being plus 10 and being level 50. Second would be via the equipment you give to the hero. Weapons, armor and jewels in the game have a main stat which often give flat stat increases. However, they also have substats which boost stats by percentage with the exception of HP and speed. There are 3 weapon substats you need to know and they are speed, crit and lethal. Speed is a very important stat in both PvP and PvE. For PvP you have to ensure that at least one hero is built with maximum possible speed, using number 1 weapons and number 2 the Fallout speed jewel. That hero with the highest speed will always be set as the attack leader. This is to allow you to land the first basic attack and use skills first. Basically you want to outspeed your opponent. If you get into a speed tie, you will go first by default. In PvE, the importance of speed takes a different meaning. It is important in determining the order of your hero's basic attacks. Why is this important? Because the earlier a hero uses his or her basic attack, the earlier they charge their awakening gauge. So if you require a certain hero's awaken skill to come up as soon as possible, then ensuring that they have the highest speed on your team will be key. Adjusting the speed value and order of your heroes will help you achieve better results. The next substat is lethal rate. Higher lethal rate means you will get a higher chance to trigger lethal attacks. Lethal attacks seem to amplify damage by 30%, but this is not exactly confirmed because there is an additional effect to lethal attacks, and that is the lower the enemy's HP, the stronger lethal attacks will be. Do not confuse this with lethal damage substat, which only serves to increase the damage from lethal attacks once triggered. The last weapon substat is crit. Higher crit rate also just means more likelihood to trigger a critical attack, which increases damage output by 1.5 times. Likewise, the crit damage substat refers to the amount of damage you can do from a critical attack. Taken together, crit and lethal rate are the most important substats you need to keep in mind when building PvE DPSs and strong damage dealers in PvP. Ensuring that these substats are close to 100% as possible is the most important, and it does not have to be just from the hero equipment itself. You should also consider hero passives, hero exclusive items, and guild buffs if applicable. Also, some skills do offer individual boosts for the hero, so you have to take note. The crit substat has a very close relationship with the block rate substat for armor. When you trigger block, all damage received is half, even crit attacks. Having a high block rate allows your hero to have a higher chance to block all damage and thereby take less damage. The second armor substat is counter. Counter is basically the ability to retaliate with a normal attack, and higher counter rate means more chance to hit back. Heroes can counter skills, but they cannot counter speed attacks. If your team has more than one hero with counter equipment, only the hero with the highest counter rate will be countering. Lastly, we have the HP increase substat, which is a very common substat used in PvE and PvP. The higher the HP, the better the hero's survival and bulk. Take note that while HP is a substat here, the increase in HP is an absolute amount and not a percentage. So those were the 6 main substats for weapons and armor. Next we will look at buffs and debuffs. There are 2 main categories of buffs and debuffs, active forms and passive forms. An example of an active buff would be Lina's crit rate increase skill, and Velika's top skill, which increases single target skill damage. These buffs require the hero to cast the skill before they exist and very often have a time duration. Note that skills which do not do damage are more likely to be prioritized over damaging skills in arena. So buff and healing skills have higher skill priority. Likewise, they can be removed by buff duration, decreased skills or buff removal skills. Then we have passive buffs. Examples of those will include Eileen's physical attack and crit rate increase passive, and Ace's crit damage increase passive. It is applied as long as they hit the field. Passive buffs which are turn-based can also be reduced by buff duration decrease skills. Take note that not all passive buffs will be applied to the entire team. Some heroes only buff themselves, such as Shane with her lethal rate increase. There are special kind of buffs called HP shields like the ones Mythical Evan casts. These appear as blue bars below a hero's HP bar once they are applied, and serve to act as an additional source of HP and bulk for your hero. Only skills with effects that remove shields can get rid of them immediately, otherwise you have to manually hit and reduce the hero's external HP. Moving on to debuffs, passive debuffs are negative skill effects that take effect on your enemy when your hero hits the field, like Zahara's block rate reduction. On the other hand, active debuffs need to be casted via skills and can be split into two types. Stat reductions, like what Rachel's defense decrease does, and status effects like bleed, electrify and burn, etc. If you are unsure about what each kind of status effect does, you can easily check them via the help section in the game. The most important point I want to make is that these status effects can be applied easily and also be avoided. There are many factors in determining the success of the status effect casting. The first is the status effect cast rate, which increases the hero's chance of applying the status effect by a certain percentage. The only ways to increase this is via limit breaking, using certain pets, and unlocking the grade 6 fighter's soul. Status effect cast rate is counted by status effect resist rate. This can be increased with limit break as well, along with jewels and pets. There are also heroes like Lina who provide increased resistance against certain status effects for your entire team. There are also heroes like Rudy who provide complete immunity against certain status effects. So what do you do if you are inflicted with an active debuff? You can decide to actively remove them with debuff cleansing skills. Skills which cause transformation also remove debuffs for those particular heroes like Shane, for example. As the game has progressed, there are an increasing number of status effects which actually do not have a specific resistance, such as Caesar's Parasite and Tara's Suffocation. But do not worry, the success of applying a status effect is chance-based after all. The next thing I want to talk about are the unique features of Awakened and Mythical Awakened heroes. When heroes awaken, they gain a new feature called the Awakened Skill Gauge, which charges up whenever a hero uses basic skills, uses skills, and receives damage. Awakened skills can only be used once per match unless otherwise stated. Some skills, exclusive items, jewels help to charge the awakened gauges faster, while some skills can decrease awakening gauges of enemies to slow them down. Some heroes can even reset allies' awakened skills. In addition to having awakened skills, Mythical Awakened heroes have a new mechanic called effect attacks. These super strong basic attacks come with extra unique effects almost similar to skills and completely occur by chance unless otherwise stated. So far, there are two ways to increase the chance of effect attacks occurring, and that is to use Mythical Awakened speed, weapons, and by equipping the specific Dark Knight jewel. Another thing you need to understand is a hero's skill cooldown. This refers to the time needed for the hero to be able to use the skill again. Cooldowns can be increased, decreased, and reset with skill effects. If you manage to increase your enemy's cooldown successfully, it could change the entire tide of the match since you prevent any skill use. There are jewels and heroes like Malsong and Rook with his exclusive item that provide complete immunity to cooldown increases for all allies. This next section will be on damage mechanics. The game has a variety of ways where damage output multipliers come into play. The most basic is of course damage based off the hero's physical or magic attack stat. It is commonly written as inflicts XX% physical damage or magic damage on enemy. Then we have fixed damage mechanics where heroes deal a definite amount of damage regardless of defense and bulk. Note that HP reduction is a similar mechanic, but it is not considered as an actual hit but only an effect, and you can tell this from the purple font. Some skills also deal damage based on enemy's total amount of HP. Some skills ignore a certain percentage of target's defense. For the final part of this video, I will talk about some in-game effects. The first on the list will be Reflect. This refers to the effect whereby a certain percentage of damage taken is hit back onto the enemy, and there are heroes like Aragon who provide complete Reflect immunity for the whole team. Lifesteal and healing are the effects of regaining health, whether based on percentage of damage dealt or percentage of the hero's own attack stat. Formation change effects cause your heroes to be scrambled around, and this is harmful because it causes certain formation buffs to apply differently to different heroes. There are heroes like Bidam and Da Qiao who provide immunity to formation changes. Evasion provides heroes with a chance to dodge incoming attacks, while accuracy rate increase allows heroes to counter the evasion rate of the enemies. While evasion gives heroes the chance to receive no damage from any skill or basic attack, an effect called hide doesn't do the same. In fact, hide is an effect that prevents the hero from being targeted by single target forms of attack or skills. This means the hero cannot be countered while under the hide effect. Hide effects tend to last only for a few turns. A definite way to ignore evasion would be to use skills with exploit vulnerability, which guarantees that all hits will hit and the skill has greater damage output. Taunt is an effect that draws in all the basic attacks of the enemy. Taunt can be self-induced like in Ares' case, or be applied onto the enemy, which Ariel is capable of. Immortality allows heroes to live on 1 HP and become completely immune to damage for a set number of turns. The way to kill them is by buff duration reduction or incapacitation, which is an effect that only Zahara has, but against universal enemies only. Heroes with immortality include Chris and Teo. There is also a somewhat rare status effect related skill effect which you may need to know since Demon of Destruction in Accessory Raid possesses it, and that is Magnification. Magnification only applies on burnt, poison and bleeding heroes and are found on heroes like Orca and Sylvester. How does it work? For example, when a hero is burnt, he or she will take 20% damage when burn is activated. What burn magnification does is that it will immediately increase the amount of damage dealt due to burn by a certain number of times and also removes the burn status from the target. The same applies for poison and bleed. Basically, it is like an explosion of the damage from the status effect. And the last skill effect is Nullification, which is only found on Truth. However, it is also provided by the Guardian Ring. Nullification basically means ignoring any sort of damage, whether it is from skills or basic attacks. The Guardian Ring provides a turn-based nullification, so even if you get hit by 2 basic attacks and 1 skill from your opponent, there will be no damage received since it is the same turn. Nullification can be times based too, so if you get hit by 2 basic attacks, you will receive damage from the next skill even within the same turn. If I have left out any mechanic you wish to know more about, do let me know in the comments. I hope this was a good enough overview. Feel free to check the skill filter too to see what skill effects can be found on which hero. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, hitting the bell icon so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thank you so much and see you!